When 4-year-old Paisley Schultes vanished during a custody handover, police feared the worst. But no one expected the truth. She wasn't taken by a stranger. She was hidden beneath a staircase, just feet away from where officers searched for over 2 years. For the past 30 months, while police searched the country for a missing 4-year-old, Paisley Joan Schultes had been right here, hidden beneath the floorboards of her grandfather's home. The family had denied everything until now. This isn't just another missing child case. This is the story of a family conspiracy that stole a little girl's childhood, one day at a time, right under the noses of law enforcement. Welcome to Last Seen Stories, where we investigate the cases that haunt our communities and expose the truth behind unexplained disappearances. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a case that defies the conventional narrative of child abductions. Most missing children stories involve strangers, random acts of violence, or children who wander away. But Paisley's story is different. Her captors weren't strangers lurking in the shadows. They were the very people meant to protect her, her mother, her father, and her grandfather. Some missing persons cases are sprints, frantic searches that end within days. Others are marathons that stretch for years. Paisley's case is neither. It's a story of calculated deception, of a family's desperate attempt to defy the law, and, in doing so, stealing a childhood. For over 2 years, this little girl with bright eyes and a trusting smile existed as a ghost, a memory to those searching for her, but a living secret in a house built on lies. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the line between parental love and criminal possession. Before we dive deeper into this disturbing case, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments and hit subscribe to join our community of truth seekers. Your support helps us continue shedding light on cases like Paisley's that might otherwise remain in the shadows. Now let's rewind to July 2019, when a little girl disappeared without a trace during what should have been a routine custody transfer. Cayuga Heights, New York, a quiet college town nestled in the Finger Lakes region, home to around 3,800 residents. Not the kind of place you'd expect a child to vanish without a trace. Kimberly Cooper and Kirk Schultes Jr. had built a life here with their 2 young daughters. But beneath the surface of this seemingly normal family, trouble was brewing. The couple had run into legal problems, the exact nature of which remains sealed in family court records. What we do know is that by mid-2019, the situation had deteriorated to the point where a judge made a fateful decision. The couple would lose custody of both children. The plan was straightforward. The girls would be placed with a legal guardian, someone the court deemed capable of providing stability, while the parents sorted through their issues. The older sister was picked up from school by social workers without incident. But when authorities arrived at the family home to retrieve 4-year-old Paisley, they encountered an unexpected problem. She wasn't there. "We don't know where she is," the parents claimed with practiced confusion. She was just here. To the trained ears of law enforcement, the story immediately raised red flags. The timing was too convenient, the explanations too vague. This wasn't a case of a child wandering off. This had been planned. Within hours, police issued an alert for the missing girl. Initial interviews with neighbors yielded nothing unusual, no suspicious vehicles, no strangers in the area. But investigators weren't looking for strangers. From the beginning, they suspected this was a case of parental interference. Attention quickly turned to the extended family, particularly Kirk Schultes Sr., Paisley's paternal grandfather who lived in Saugerties, New York, about 160 miles away from Cayuga Heights. The distance was significant but manageable, a perfect place to hide a child if you didn't want her found. The first search of the grandfather's property on Fawn Road came just days after Paisley's disappearance. Officers knocked, explained the situation, and asked to look around. Schultes Sr. allowed them in, seeming cooperative as they walked through rooms and peered into closets. Nothing seemed amiss. No sign of a little girl. They left empty-handed. It would be the first of many failed attempts. The pattern was established. A lead would come in, officers would visit the grandfather's house, the family would deny everything, a cursory search would find nothing, and the case would go cold again. Each time, the truth lay just beneath their feet. To understand how a child could remain hidden for so long, we need to examine the three people at the center of this conspiracy. Kimberly Cooper, Paisley's mother, was 33 when police finally found her, crouched with her daughter, in that damp space beneath the stairs. By all accounts, she loved her children deeply, but something in that love had warped, twisted into a desperate possessiveness that prioritized keeping her daughter over her daughter's well-being. Cooper had her own troubled history with the law. Court records show prior arrests for drug possession and petty theft. When found with Paisley, she was wanted on an outstanding warrant unrelated to the custody case. During those 2.5 years in hiding, did she ever question her choices? Did she realize that in trying to keep her daughter close, she was inflicting lasting trauma? Kirk Schultes Jr., Paisley's father, presented himself as a victim of an unjust system. His attorney would later describe him as a devoted, dedicated, and loving father who had been fighting for his children through proper legal channels. But his criminal record told a different story. Prior to losing custody, Schultes Jr. had been charged with drug offenses and home improvement fraud. In one case, he allegedly took payment for construction work he never completed. These legal troubles likely factored heavily into the court's decision to remove the children from the home. On the day police finally discovered Paisley, Schultes Jr. was in the house. He maintained the same story he'd repeated for years. He hadn't seen his daughter since 2019. He was lying, even as officers began dismantling the staircase. The third conspirator was Kirk Schultes Sr., the 57-year-old patriarch whose home became both sanctuary and prison. As the owner of the property on Fawn Road, he provided the physical space for the deception. More crucially, he was the one who repeatedly faced police, looking them in the eye, while his granddaughter hid below. Over those 30 months, Schultes Sr. allowed at least a dozen searches of his property. Each time, he maintained the same calm denial. "She's not here. I haven't seen her." Each time, he knew exactly where she was. What binds these three individuals is not just blood, but a shared belief that their judgment superseded the law. They created an alternate reality where hiding a child in darkness was an act of love rather than cruelty. They closed ranks against the outside world, transforming from family to conspirators. The question that haunts this case: at what point does parental love become criminal possession? When does protection become imprisonment? This family's actions have divided opinions across the country. Was this love or control? Share your thoughts in the comments below and hit that like button if you're following along. Your engagement helps our channel reach others interested in these complex cases. The Saugerties Police Department, led by Chief Joseph Sinagra, faced a frustrating reality during their search for Paisley. They were convinced she was in the grandfather's house, but lacked the concrete evidence needed for a comprehensive search warrant. We'd received multiple tips placing the child at that location, Chief Sinagra later told reporters. But each time we went there, we'd get the same denial. The limitation of police powers in these situations is something rarely understood by the public. Without specific evidence or imminent danger, officers cannot simply tear a house apart. They were constrained by the very legal system designed to protect citizens' rights, a system the Schultes family was exploiting. Between July 2019 and February 2022, officers visited the Fawn Road residence approximately 12 times. Each visit followed the same script. Officers would arrive, the family would deny everything, a limited search would find nothing, and the case would remain open. The Schulteses had perfected their deception. They allowed just enough access to maintain the illusion of cooperation while keeping their secret intact. They knew precisely how far officers could go without a warrant, and they stayed one step ahead. Inside the home, a bizarre double life was unfolding. Paisley had a bedroom upstairs with her name on the wall, a room that was only used when police weren't around. When visitors or law enforcement appeared, she and her mother would disappear into their hiding space beneath the staircase leading to the basement. The turning point came on Valentine's Day 2022. A credible tip, the specifics of which remain confidential, provided police with enough evidence to secure a comprehensive search warrant. This wasn't going to be another cursory walkthrough. This time, they had the authority to conduct a thorough investigation. At approximately 8:06 p.m., officers arrived at the Fawn Road house. As they had done many times before, Kirk Schultes Jr. and Sr. denied any knowledge of Paisley's whereabouts. They allowed officers in, perhaps confident in their ability to maintain the deception that had worked for so long. For nearly an hour, the search appeared to be heading toward the same fruitless conclusion as all the others. But Detective Eric Thiele wasn't satisfied. Something about the basement staircase caught his attention, an instinct honed by years of experience. Shining his flashlight between the wooden steps, he noticed something unusual, a small piece of blanket visible through the cracks. It was the break they'd been waiting for. Officers retrieved a Halligan tool, a heavy-duty prying instrument used by firefighters and police. They began removing the wooden treads one by one. With each step removed, the family's facade crumbled further. Then came the moment that changed everything. In the beam of the flashlight, officers spotted a pair of tiny feet. After removing a few more steps, they discovered 6-year-old Paisley Schultes huddled with her mother in a small, damp space that reeked of mold. They had been hiding there for hours as police searched the house above them. How many times before had they done the same thing? How many times had officers walked directly over them, unaware that the object of their search was just inches away? The space was roughly 3 by 4 feet, with a mattress and some blankets. It was cold and wet, conditions no child should endure. Yet this had been Paisley's reality whenever danger threatened their secret world. As officers helped the girl out of her hiding place, a case that had haunted the department for years was finally solved. But for Paisley, the ordeal was just beginning. What was life like for Paisley during those 2.5 years of isolation? The picture that emerged was both heartbreaking and infuriating. The secret compartment under the stairs wasn't her permanent living space, it was her emergency shelter, her place to disappear when the outside world came too close. When no one was watching, she lived in a bedroom upstairs. But even in that normal space, her existence was anything but typical. She hadn't attended school since her disappearance. At 6 years old, she couldn't read or write. According to police reports, she had likely not seen a doctor or dentist during her time in hiding. Her world consisted only of the adults who had orchestrated her disappearance. Police discovered toys and clothing in the house, evidence that the family had attempted to create some semblance of normalcy. But normalcy cannot exist in secrecy. Paisley had been robbed of the most fundamental childhood experiences, friendships, education, freedom to play outdoors, even the simple joy of walking through a grocery store without fear. When officers found her, Paisley was quiet and withdrawn. She didn't cry or scream. Her response suggested a child who had been conditioned to remain silent, to be invisible. It's a response typical of children subjected to prolonged trauma. They adapt to survive. One small detail from that night reveals volumes about her isolated existence. On the way to be reunited with her legal guardian and older sister, officers stopped at McDonald's. Paisley's eyes lit up. She told them she hadn't had fast food in a long time. This simple childhood pleasure had been another sacrifice on the altar of her family's deception. The psychological impact of such isolation cannot be overstated. Experts in child development note that ages 4 to 6 are crucial for social learning and identity formation. During this period, Paisley was taught that the outside world was dangerous, that authorities were enemies, that her safety depended on remaining hidden. The reunion with her older sister offered a glimmer of hope amid the trauma. Despite the separation, Paisley recognized her sister immediately. Their bond had somehow survived, suggesting that perhaps other connections to her former life might be rebuilt as well. But the road to recovery would be long and complex. The girl who emerged from beneath those stairs was not the same 4-year-old who had disappeared. She was now 6, with 2.5 years of development shaped by isolation and fear. Stories like Paisley's often go untold, hidden behind closed doors and family secrets. Help us shine light on these hidden tragedies by sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it. Together, we can raise awareness about the complex reality of family abductions. In the immediate aftermath of Paisley's discovery, all 3 family members were taken into custody. Kimberly Cooper was charged with custodial interference in the 2nd degree and endangering the welfare of a child, both misdemeanors. She also faced an outstanding warrant from Ulster County Family Court. Kirk Schultes Jr. and Sr. were each charged with felony custodial interference in the 1st degree and endangering the welfare of a child. The distinction in charges reflects their different roles in the conspiracy. Cooper as the parent who directly concealed the child, the Schulteses as the facilitators who provided the location and maintained the deception. At their arraignment, all 3 pleaded not guilty. Their attorneys painted them as loving family members who believed they were protecting Paisley from an unjust system. Kirk Schultes Jr.'s lawyer argued that his client had been fighting for his children through legal channels all along, a claim difficult to reconcile with the elaborate hiding place built beneath his father's stairs. The judge issued orders of protection prohibiting all 3 defendants from contacting Paisley. Kirk Schultes Jr. and Sr. were released on their own recognizance, while Kimberly Cooper was held due to the outstanding warrant. As the case progressed through the legal system, questions emerged about how such a deception could continue for so long. Chief Sinagra of the Saugerties Police Department defended his officers' actions, noting the limitations they faced without specific evidence. Each time we went, we were given limited access, and we were told the child wasn't there, he explained. For Paisley, the process of reintegration began immediately. She was examined at a local hospital, where doctors found her to be in generally good health despite her ordeal. Physical health, however, was just one aspect of her recovery. Child psychologists specializing in trauma note that children in Paisley's situation often struggle with a complex set of challenges. They may experience difficulty trusting authority figures, confusion about their identity, and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. The abrupt transition from isolation to normal life can be overwhelming. Adding to the complexity was Paisley's relationship with her captors. Unlike victims of stranger abductions, she had been hidden by people she loved and trusted. This creates what experts call traumatic bonding, an attachment to the very people responsible for her trauma. The legal guardian who had been searching for Paisley since 2019 now faced the daunting task of helping her rebuild her life. Privacy concerns have kept most details about this process confidential, but experts in similar cases emphasize the importance of consistent routines, therapy, and patience. Education would be another hurdle. At 6 years old, Paisley had missed crucial early learning experiences. She would need specialized support to catch up academically while also processing her emotional trauma. As news of the case spread, it sparked broader conversations about the nature of family abductions. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children estimates that family members are responsible for approximately 200,000 child abductions annually in the United States. These cases often receive less attention than stranger abductions, but can be equally damaging to the children involved. Dr. Janet Warren, a forensic psychologist who has studied family abductions, explains, "These children are often told lies about the other parent or about why they're hiding. They're taught to fear authorities who might help them. The psychological manipulation can be profound." The Schultes case stands as a stark reminder that love, when twisted by desperation and entitlement, can become as dangerous as any malice. The case of Paisley Schultes forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about family abductions. These are not simply custody disputes gone awry. They are not acts of love, despite what perpetrators may tell themselves. They are, at their core, a form of child abuse. Statistics from the Department of Justice reveal that children abducted by family members suffer lasting psychological harm. They are taught to fear the world outside their hidden existence. Their development is stunted, their understanding of trust and safety warped. What makes Paisley's case particularly disturbing is how close she remained to those searching for her. While many family abductions involve crossing state or even national borders, Paisley was hidden just hours from where she disappeared, in a house that police had searched multiple times. There's a terrible irony in what the Schultes family did. In their desperate attempt to keep Paisley, they lost her in ways far more profound than any court order could have mandated. They preserved her physical presence while erasing her childhood. They saved her from a system they distrusted, only to create their own prison system at home, one without education, friends, or freedom. System failures also played a role in this case. The legal constraints that prevented more thorough searches earlier are designed to protect citizens' privacy. But in this instance, they prolonged a child's suffering. It raises difficult questions about balancing civil liberties with child protection. The hero of this story isn't a caped crusader, but a detective with a flashlight and the intuition to look more closely at a staircase. It reminds us that sometimes the most significant breakthroughs come not from dramatic raids or high-tech surveillance, but from patient, persistent police work and attention to detail. As for Paisley, her future remains private, as it should be. She has already had too much of her life exposed against her will. What we can hope is that with proper support, stability, and care, she can begin to reclaim the childhood that was stolen from her, not by strangers, but by the very people who should have protected her right to grow up in the light. The case of Paisley Schultes reminds us that sometimes the most dangerous secrets aren't hidden in remote locations, but in ordinary houses on ordinary streets. It reminds us to look more closely at the world around us, to question when things don't seem quite right, and to remember that children's well-being must always take precedence over adults' desires to possess them. If this story moved you, make sure you're subscribed to Last Seen Stories for more in-depth investigations that expose the truth. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And remember, sometimes the most important stories are the ones hidden right beneath our feet.